Ever wonder what the climb was like for some of the most influential figures in the music industry? How did they navigate this crazy world of music, and what stories do they have to tell? But also, if your manager is being paid by Live Nation, they might have in their agreement that might be under a non-disclosure that they have to send you towards Live Nation companies. So it's basically you've got this really, really insular touring world, which is where all the money is.
Right.
So we've got one thing that's more of a meritocracy. Another thing that we're kind of saying is sort of like the old thing.
Right.
A lot like it. I mean, letting Live Nation and Ticketmaster merge was a recipe for disaster.
This is Road to the Arena, a series by Triad Music, whose goal is to create cutting-edge music technology designed to eliminate the mystery surrounding money in the music industry. In today's episode, Mike, Wendy, and Drew cover all of the most pressing issues in the music industry, especially how Live Nation has become a 350 company and growing monstrosity. And we'll be back to interviewing guests on the next episode. Here's Road to the Arena. All right, so
Okay.
I want to paint the picture, because I'm a jazz nerd, of a little bit of a historical perspective of how we got to all this, the music industry that exists today. But it really did a little bit start in the Prohibition era, where we suddenly needed to provide music, and we were trying to...
Are we recording?
We are recording.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
We're doing ancient history.
This is an intro.
What happened before electricity, Drew?
No, but this is important, because the whole thing was built out of this.
The dinosaurs.
Oh my goodness.
Airplane memory.
My Lord. But the truth is, in the Prohibition era, jazz musicians were suddenly needed to play in all of these places, and they were paid to do so. And that was the first time that there was really like a popular music industry.
Right.
And guess who ran it? The mob.
Of course.
Yeah.
Criminals ran it. And so
Let's not be like my family was part of the mob.
Well,
I'm Italian
you know,
over here. So let's not be like, let's just not assume we're criminals.
So I don't want to talk about my wife's family. But anyway, the truth of the matter,
My wife, please.
the truth of the matter is it was illegal,
Okay.
factually speaking,
Well, I
to
mean-
do what they were doing.
Okay.
And
yeah,
so,
sure.
But now a lot of the things that they were doing were not.
Define illegal.
Oh my God. You sound like my lawyer friend.
Bill Clinton. It depends on what
Define
you're
falling
Yeah.
over. I won't say his name, but one of my very, very good lawyer friends and I were asked politely to leave a Broadway bar.
Landon?
Hey now.
Oh, sorry. You're
And-
a rock star. Got
No,
your
this
game
was
on.
this was
Get
this was
paid.
this was
Hey now.
many years ago. We were asked politely to leave a bar. We had done everything that they had to offer at that bar, and he said, "Define falling over." So that didn't go well. We left, and we gladly took our show on the road.
Okay, so what was
In
the
any
point of our
event-
history lesson?
Yeah, the point of the history lesson is the entire model was sort of built on this like criminal enterprise. And so nobody really knew, there was a lot of secrets. Nobody knew how much somebody was getting paid, how it was all working. It was
it kind of
kept
still
really
that
close
like
to the
that?
best. Yeah, and so I think that what has sort of happened is as the industry has progressed, this level of secrecy that was part of the genesis of the music industry, which was happening around the Prohibition era, has really kind of continued on.
Right. That hasn't changed.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's just more money. People are getting paid more, but it's still the same. You're not knowing what you're getting paid, who's getting paid what.
Yeah, I mean, every biography of a rock star includes him or her being screwed over by their manager and not knowing till later where all the money went.
Look at Elvis.
Yeah, or the Beatles or anybody. right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and Aerosmith is famously on the record saying that they found out their manager after many years was somehow getting the first several rows of every venue and selling them and pocketing all of the money and things like
Wow.
that. There's been all sorts of kickbacks and
There was payola on the early radio.
well, there's still payola.
Right.
Yeah, because it costs. It's funny. You talk to radio people in Nashville, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's about $1.5 million to get a number one song." I'm like, where's that money going?
Right. Where is it going? It just goes to the label. Whoever.
The money comes
but then
from
who?
the label, the promotion team, to something, probably to independent radio station or to large radio stations and DJs and different people who are just need, and that's their structure financially, is they get paid to play music.
So can you just get a song on the radio without having to pay? Like if Mike's working for a radio station, can I just get a song to Mike and say, hey, Mike, do me a favor. Like Mia has this great song out. I'd like you to play it.
Because it's owned by a big conglomerate.
But he can't just play a song.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of stations there is no DJ. It's just a computerized playlist.
Well, there's a DJ. Stormy Warren, hello.
Yeah, but not very often.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of it's fake. And a lot of the syndicated shows you hear, like the funny guys doing in the morning, those are all national.
Really?
Yeah, and all those prank shows are fake.
Really?
What they call it, yeah, they're all. A friend of mine owned a bunch of radio stations. He told me they're all fake. All those really funny things, like in the morning, and phone tap and everything. It's all fake. It's all actors.
Oh, that's a bummer. I'm so disappointed.
They're so good.
I know. I thought for sure that was the cheating boyfriend that they were calling.
I know,
Right?
me too.
I mean, I've been calling in every day my whole life, and it's all fake.
It's all fake.
Well, I can't get on.
Wendy, there's no tooth fairy.
Dang it.
Well, and the other thing, is that as in the days of private equity and low interest rates and everything got even more consolidated. So,
Yeah.
Like we were going to talk about this, but like when they let Ticketmaster and Live Nation merge, I mean, it was tons of scrutiny for several years, and then they let them merge, and once they merged, they were just going to act like a business and do everything they can to maximize profits, and it's good for them and
That's what they're doing.
yeah, and bad for everybody else,
Right.
Because it's a super unfair playing field.
Yeah, but back to your question, there's some people who it's almost like I think real estate operates this way a little bit. Like, do you really need I mean, there's been some legislation lately that has allowed real estate to open up just a little bit. But do you really need an agent in certain area? Not exactly, but there's agents have relationships and they know certain people and they do favors and they are owed favors. And as long as their network is really, really strong, certain deals will go through that otherwise would fall apart. And there's things like that. And so like the radio network is a little bit like that, where there's these radio promo people who are deeply established. Yeah, they're probably paying the radio stations a little bit, but they also owed all these favors. They've done a bunch of favors. And so I think I could be totally wrong in this. My perspective is most of the time people are being directly paid to play music on the radio. And for some reason, the radio still matters.
Yeah, but why does it really matter? Spotify is so much bigger than the radio.
I don't know why it matters, but it does. It still matters.
I mean, do you listen to the radio at all in the car?
No, I don't think
Spotify or Apple Music or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I've listened to a radio station or had a radio station programmed in my car for I don't even know how many years. Like 10, 15?
I'll listen to NPR, but that's about it because at least it's both local or like Sirius XM. Fine if I'm in a rental car or something,
Sirius XM I listen to, but that's not the radio.
But not the local radio station because those are all owned by conglomerates anyway. So I don't really know.
Plus, you get static. I'm not a big fan of static. You're right in the middle of your great song, and all of a sudden, you're like, really? I was just getting to the bridge.
Right. So but the weird thing, the thing that for me that seems so interesting is that like I was just sort of thinking about it like I was in economics class or something, is that like, okay, so Spotify is kind of a meritocracy in the sense that sure they can tell you if you're on the list or not, but it's all about data and the algorithm, right? So to some extent, the algorithm is pure, right? It is an actual algorithm. And so if your song's popular, it'll move up the charts and get more popular, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, how'd they do that back in the day, though? I mean, I get it now, everything's computerized, right? But how'd they do it back in the day when you were spinning a record on the radio? Like when you had to spin the actual record as a DJ?
People would call. Like if you read some of these stories about like these guys making their breakout, like Steely Dan's an example with their first album, that this song they started playing it and people started calling and requesting it. Literally, it was like people calling the number and requesting.
Oh, so you have to recall this request, like please play.
Or it would start in one city and then it would get big, or like the album flopped and then a DJ in San Diego played it a bunch because he or she liked it and then it broke. Like it was like a mini version of the algorithm actually, if you think about it. It was crowdsourced.
But now it's just computerized.
But also it was a one-to-many model. Like you had a small number of distribution companies that were telling the masses, here's what you're going to listen to.
Yeah, so this is where I was going to go, is that so if you assumed that Spotify was, quote, a meritocracy, unquote, the weird thing is the touring business is the opposite because it's all controlled by Live Nation and AEG, right?
Yeah.
And so who gets to do what where is not a meritocracy at all, right? It's about as old school as it could be. There are only 2 or 3 companies that control all the venues and all the access to the venues and all the ticketing and all the ways in which you get to decide who gets to play where and when. It's completely the deck is totally stacked against you as an artist.
Which stinks because Spotify, back in the day, if an artist sold a CD, they got like about $1.50.
Yeah, right now they get a penny.
Now they get 0.0004 cents for a stream, right?
No, that's right. So the touring is really
the
important.
meritocracy part of it. Well, first of all, I don't believe music is really a meritocracy in terms of skill of the art you're producing. It's a meritocracy maybe in your ability to strategize and network and things like that, with a minimum cursory requirement to have decent music. But with that said, Spotify, I don't have any idea what their algorithm uses, but there might be some radio play element of it. And radio play is still largely controlled by, but you got to understand too, these playlists, the big playlists in Spotify, the labels own a percentage of most of them.
Well, sure. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it isn't corrupt.
Yeah, it's a corrupt, but it's more of a meritocracy than maybe it used to be.
At least you can influence it as a fan, right?
Right.
If you guys all listen to it, at least in theory, there's some way, but
It's a one-to-one. Like if an artist connects with a fan, then the fan might listen to this song.
But if your favorite artist isn't coming to Pittsburgh and somebody else is, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's not up to you.
Yeah, but the weird part is, then with the touring, to your point, like with the touring is where there's still money left on the table.
Yep.
Right.
Like how much money did Taylor Swift's tour make?
Like ridiculous.
Like billions.
Yeah, $1 billion that we even know about.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know, right.
That we even know about, right? Because there's all these people on the outside of the tour that are making money illegally.
Last summer in Seattle, 2 75,000 seat days in a row.
It all
It's
started
ridiculous. I mean, it's insane.
The football stadium, 2 in a row.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
it started with Harry Styles for me. When he booked that tour and he was playing like Madison Square Garden like 5 nights in a row, totally sold out. The cheapest ticket you could find was $500 and it's Harry Styles. No offense to any of the younger generation. But I was like, really?
Yeah. no.
There's this many people that want to,
That kid,
Yeah,
I know.
I don't see that infatuation with Harry Styles myself, but like I don't understand. What I don't understand is how is it because brokers buy tickets, like on Ticketmaster, for instance, the tickets are like, oh, you can see Taylor Swift for $250, right? But you can't. There's not a seat in the stadium for $250. There are like 15,000 for front row, and it's
Well, they have a bunch
and
but they have a bunch of bot control. They have a bunch of things to prevent bots from buying tickets.
Yeah, but so that's
how
what
do
I
you
was.
do that,
That's
though?
what.
How do you control that though? Because why can't you just buy a ticket to Taylor Swift? Because it used to be like if you went and saw like, sorry to age myself, but like Whitney Houston or Madonna back in the day or whatever, you'd get like front row seats for like $300 easy.
Well, so now, because now there's the secondary ticket market. So now people, regardless of how they try to prevent you from buying tickets, most people buy tickets to sell them.
Right.
But it used to be that it was some guy in the parking lot, right? And-
Right. You'd walk by at
Right.
a scalper.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That was
Or you
kind of an
camped
invention.
out, which I did.
Right.
Yeah, I never did that.
But the secondary ticket market now, I've never seen
Little
a
unsafe.
concert that I couldn't get a good ticket to in the secondary ticket market. Just question what you want to pay for it, right?
Yeah, but so
There's always supply. It's just
Oh,
expensive.
always.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you went online right now to try and buy Taylor in, I don't even know where she is right now, but like, let's say she's in London, you're not going to get a seat for under like 12 grand. If you want to sit somewhere
Right,
cool, unless
right.
you want to sit way up in like Egypt, which, like,
that's
why even go? Just
No,
listen to
that's
the
right. Then you're
radio.
just standing there, right?
Yeah, because you can't even see the stage. So what's the point? But I mean, if you want to be in the first 10 rows,
yeah, and so that's what I wanted to talk about. So we've got Spotify. I think is probably more of a meritocracy than the radio ever used to be.
right?
Right. But then, but none of the money is being made on Spotify. All of the money is being made in touring.
Right.
But it turns out Live Nation owns every single angle of the touring industry. Like I just opened up their SEC filing for all of the subsidiaries, and there's like 350 of them, and they comprise management companies, bus companies, touring companies, which do all elements, merch companies, the venues themselves. And they're currently being sued, right, for antitrust behavior, where they're penalizing people for not using their groups. But also, if your manager is being paid by Live Nation, they might have in their agreement that might be under a non-disclosure that they have to send you towards Live Nation companies. So it's basically you've got this really, really insular touring world, which is where all the money is.
Right.
So we've got one thing that's more of a meritocracy. Another thing that we're kind of saying is sort of like the old thing.
Right.
A lot like it. I mean, letting Live Nation and Ticketmaster merge was a recipe for disaster.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, Ticketmaster already had a monopoly on most, if not all, the venues. And because that was always the way they did business.
Right.
So, because remember, I used to work for Paul Allen, he used to own Ticketmaster. So I worked
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my little company, we built the first Ticketmaster website.
Oh, wow.
We sold the first ticket ever on the internet.
And then they called the guy and told him, hey,
told the story, right?
Wow, that was so like, do you need a wheelchair?
Well, no, but it was before electricity, which was really
Yeah, I was going to say, like, how'd you do that?
You had to pedal a lot, right? Yeah, but anyway.
Was that the dial-up connection?
Right.
Like, ring,
that is actually
ring,
true. That part is true.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Ticketmaster was always like that, and Live Nation got really big and controlled all the venues. And so you have a venue company, a ticketing company, and you merge them, and they both had dominant market share. Anyway, what do you expect is going to happen, right? They're going to bundle, right? And they're going to cut costs and build everything in together. But, if you own the ticketing and the venue, I mean, you have and
the manager and the bus company.
Right, you have it covered 8 ways to Sunday, right? It's really bad. I mean, so it's not surprising they're getting sued. They should never have let it go through in the first place.
I mean, just think about just owning the bus company and also owning the venue and the promotion company. Oh, artist. Okay, guess what? We're going to pay you $50,000 to play this show.
The bus ride's
But the bus ride just went up 10 times.
Yeah, that's right.
And the venue, our security, turns out security ain't as cheap as it used to be at the venue that we own. Right. It's insane, honestly. And the only person who's really left out of everything that we just said is the artist.
Yeah, unless they're really big, and then they have all the leverage. Right? If they're really big, they
if they're Taylor or
and those are the people that don't have to pay to be on the radio. Back to the first thing, because you can't not play
right.
Please, Please, Please by Sabrina Carpenter.
Exactly.
You have to play that song.
Right
now.
It's interesting how there really has never come a streaming service that specializes in live music has never really become a big deal. It's sort of fascinating to me that there isn't one.
Well, there were all sorts of
like live concerts.
Yeah, and playing them and streaming them live.
Well,
you mean
can
like
do
video?
That on YouTube.
No, but I know, but a thing where that's what it's like. Brand and aura is like
right.
Spotify of live music, basically. No one's ever really done that.
There's
People
some of that.
I think
they've tried to do it, but no one's really broken through.
Isn't that what YouTube? You can do it on YouTube now, though,
For
right?
big concerts, they do it.
Yeah,
but I mean, a thing
just like on the radio right now. So I could pull. I could do just pull like a Spotify, but it's going to be everything live.
Yeah, well, by the way, it could also be archived live too. But
yeah, that's what I was asking.
What would be cool is if it was like you're streaming a song and the stream that you get is just the last time it was played live.
Right.
That could be neat.
That'd be cool.
Oh my God, we got a business.
I always have this idea. I like to go find live cuts of artists right before they made it big. Like
Dave Matthews in the mall in front of Sam Goody.
Trying, like you can listen to Fleetwood Mac in the fall of '75 when the White Fleetwood Mac album came out, and no one knows any of the songs on it yet. And the band's like, "We're introducing this song. It's called Landslide. It's by Stevie Nicks." And the audience is like, "Okay, like what? What's that?" Right? It's really cool.
It's kind of like college sports. It's like they're still really playing defense.
They're still trying.
They brick half the time. Half the shots are a brick, but they're really going for it on defense.
Yeah. And anyway, but it is interesting how the reason I said that is because if you're an artist and you want to get live gigs, you don't have a lot of leverage. I mean, you do for small venues, obviously, but not for big venues. You have no leverage at all.
Yeah, you have to take that deal.
Yeah.
And if you think you can get a better one, guess what? Blacklist.
Yeah, that's right. It's really bad. Right.
And even if you're like kind of making your way up the ladder, not unlike the tax law in the U.S., but if you're making your way up the ladder and you think you start to be able to command a bigger upfront or a bigger guaranteed payment, well, guess what? The promoter controls the entire cost side of what you're doing. Or I shouldn't say the entire. A lot of the cost side is controlled by the promoter. They can just make their money there. If they have to pay you more, they'll just make more money on the other side. It's really kind of crazy, honestly. And I mean, obviously we've started this company, Triad Music, that organizes and makes transparent a lot of this information, but it feels like that is at least one of the parts of the solution to at least shining a light on all this. An artist doesn't know this, I don't think. Do you think your run-of-the-mill artist understands that Live Nation is controlling every part of what they're doing, including their manager?
I think they find it out. If they get successful enough, they're going to have to find it out.
Is there any other company besides Live Nation, or is that it?
Well, AEG,
right?
Yeah, that's Phil Anschutz's company.
Right.
They're like...
They do Coachella, Stagecoach, all of that.
They,
all the festivals.
They control a bunch of venues like Staples and stuff. And
right.
They have a bunch of management companies. And so they're like a mini version of Live Nation, except they don't have ticketing arm. They have a small ticketing arm, but not the same.
Yeah.
Doesn't Live Nation but AEG is not in Europe, right? But Live Nation is. I know Live Nation is.
I think that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
That's correct. Right. Yeah.
So Live Nation kind of owns the entire market.
Yeah. Every
Worldwide.
O2 venue is Live
It's a
Nation.
beast, right? Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the ticketing part is just
And it's interesting. There's no one's really challenging them except for AIG. But even then,
AEG. I mean, yeah, there was sort of a weird mixture of. It kind of grew organically, but in fact, I talked to him
through festivals.
Yeah, and they built Staples, right? You know, so they did all this stuff that was kind of half real estate. They just kind of kept building. I talked to Phil Anschutz about it, and it was kind of a little bit of, wasn't quite by design, I don't think, but now it's a pretty big company, really big. Yeah.
Comparatively, compare the two. Like what is like Live Nation is a how many $1 billion company?
I don't know because. I don't have the data, but I mean AEG maybe it's half as big or something.
Okay,
there's nobody else besides those two.
Right, that's it. Those two own the world.
And the festival stuff is amazing. Right?
It really is. It has to bring in. I mean
Coachella, Stagecoach,
Well, again, it's
Jazz Fest, right?
We need an '80s Cella. We need like Def Leppard, Foreigner. We need that. We need those.
I'm sure it exists.
Back. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I saw Poison at Tortuga. Not Poison,
I don't
just Brett Michaels.
I want Def Leppard. Like, come on.
Yeah.
The one-armed drummer. Yeah.
One-armed drummer.
The guy lost his arm.
Yeah, the drummer had one arm.
He was in a car accident and he lost his arm and he's kept drumming.
Kept going.
It's kind of a simple beat.
Yeah.
But he's got this.
It wasn't a jazz drummer.
The drummer for Def Leppard.
You're today years old learning that the Def Leppard drummer had
Google
one.
rat hole. You'll find it.
Stop it. He just like, how would he do that? Like, you have to
he would just take his hand off the hi-hat to play the snare.
And he glued some maracas to his elbow. No, I'm just kidding, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Armband.
Yep. Yeah, just a little bit of good old fashioned perseverance. Yeah, no, I mean, truly though. So
visuals are killing me.
It's funny though. So what do you do? I mean, do you just say, okay, well, these guys are huge, they're killing it, I guess? What can an artist do?
Well,
You're
nothing.
an artist and you want to make money in this industry, and the only place currently you can make money other than maybe TikTok, which isn't even what an artist does.
Even if you're independent, you still are going to be controlled by them because they're doing all the booking. It's their concert venues. I mean, you're going to be singing.
Yeah. Once you get to above 1,000 or whatever. Right?
Exactly. Then they're going to own your world. So you can't, unless it just depends on how big you want to be. If you just want to sing it on Broadway, well, go for it. Like you can do that all day long without. But if you want to be a big star, you need those two. You need one of those two.
But hasn't every time in history there's been a company that got so stinking big, nobody could believe it? Some little guy came in and found a little angle and they were ignored.
Where's Elon Musk when we need him?
Then
the tricky part is the only tricky part of this is that these venues are all like $500 million to $1 billion. And so, and usually made with public-private money. So you can't just conjure up another venue that's a hockey arena size in downtown Nashville. There just isn't going to be one. And if they build a new one, they're going to get rid of the old one. So it doesn't compete with it. Right. So that's what ends up happening. Now, the cool thing is that, as people have gotten more tech savvy, in some of these podcasts we've done, we've seen this, that they're much more interested and willing, the artists are, to do a lot of stuff that they used to outsource to other people. They sell their own merch, they do their own promotions, they get in touch with their fans. And so if there's a pie chart of money, if you're tech savvy and independent, you have access to more of it than you didn't have some crappy company selling your merch, right? Or, you can do product placements like we heard about this morning, where an artist will get asked to be, an artist becomes an influencer, basically.
Right.
The whole Instagram, TikTok economy is just amazing to me. Didn't even really exist 5-6 years ago. Right?
I keep telling my daughters this because, they have the 760 Skin brand. Little plug, you like that?
Yeah,
760skin.com. Okay. Sponsored by, anyway. But I keep telling them that you're going to make so much money if you and they're both, all three of the girls are so beautiful. And all they have to do is just market themselves a little bit. Game on.
Yeah. The influencer thing is just
thing is insane.
So, okay. I'm a musician. That's all I've ever done. I've never really made any money doing anything other than something. Are you good looking now? That's, I think,
you have to be good looking.
I have some fans.
Patreon was like OnlyFans, but
it still exists, right?
It's less about porn. Right.
Well, yeah, patron of the arts.
Well, right.
So like if you're a YouTuber
Right.
and you're making money on YouTube and YouTube controls everything about how you monetize because they have their platform and they get to control everything.
Right.
And they're Google
You
and
just get ad revenue, right?
yeah. And they could demonetize you because you said something that they don't like. Like you said, hey, that roof seemed a little not that steep. In any event,
It wasn't sloped.
Yeah, but anyway, so they could de-platform you for saying something like, demonetize that video, and you could have hundreds of millions of views that would normally make you a lot of money. And you're not going to make any money on it. Okay, so Patreon is basically like a monthly subscription. You probably have like good, better, best. You know what I mean? And people are paying like $50 a month, $30, whatever.
Photography or or art or
Music.
Yeah.
Did you know about that website? Yeah. So is it an older website, like your generation?
10 years. Man.
Oh, okay. So older people.
Patreon. P-A-T-R-E.
But I would say around 2020 it was in its heyday.
Yeah.
So that's only
Really?
4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, OnlyFans kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah, during the pandemic, really. That's when it really caught on.
But in any event,
OnlyFans?
so
That's when it really got hot.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so there are ways for people to make money directly, right?
Well, more and more is the point I was trying to make. Is that even versus 5 years ago or 10 years ago, an artist doing like a merch plug or influencer thing on Instagram, they would have been like, what a lame ass you are. Now it's like, sure, whatever, right? No one cares. Right?
Yeah, artists were supposed to be super cool,
Right,
different,
pure,
better.
Right. And now no one cares. No one's judging.
With that said, though, like, okay, so back to the first thing. All I've ever done is music. Do you have fans? Are you hot? I don't know. But what I do know is that musicians don't get on camera every day and say, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm in my car singing the same song again
Yeah,
with a
they
fake
do.
mic.
But yeah, but see,
I do. I know a few of those artists, and so do you.
Right,
But you know what I'm saying? Like, not real artists and real
But no,
musicians.
okay, but see, I disagree with you because it's like saying before MTV, people were like, oh, well, I don't want to do videos. And then the next thing you know, Steve Winwood got a haircut and was wearing designer clothes.
Right.
And was out there doing Back in the High Life, right? You know,
That's a good point.
Guy was a heroin addict, right? You know,
Right.
So like, I disagree. Basically, if you're a young artist today and you are too cool for school to go do TikTok or Instagram, I'm like, well,
But
good
that's
luck,
not,
buddy.
that's not
Yeah,
my point.
because somebody else
program.
is, and you're going to get left in the dust.
But that's not my point. My point is back then, even when people were like, oh, video is the medium by which I get this thing to blow up, they were still putting out one album every year and a half.
That's true.
And the music was the thing. And then they're just like, oh, what do I got to do to promote it? Now it's like, well, music's free and people forget about it after a week. So you got to pump out a bunch of shitty music over and over and over again. You got to get on TikTok every single day. It's just all these things that aren't central to what a musician
But
does.
It's just cyclical, you know, because you went from 78s, which were singles, to 45s to 33s, and then cassette and CD, and then Steve Jobs came up with the iTunes store, and then it came back to singles all of a sudden, right? He destroyed the album with the 99-cent price for singles, and he kind of did it on purpose. I remember he was like, I just want to charge $1 a song. Like, that's not very much, right? You know, and which was smart. And then, so you can think of streaming as the logical extension of that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, you know, we'll just drive the price down to $10 a month or whatever, and then keep raising it later. But so I think all these things are just cyclical. It's just from day one, it's just a product of whatever tech and medium there is, right? And so this is the current state of the medium is people are on their phones all the time. They're on social media all the time. And so if you want to get noticed and also make money in ways that you can control, you have to join in. Right? There's really, I think you would be foolish not to try. And nobody cares what, I mean, of course they care what you look like, but it doesn't really matter. It's not an obstacle, right? If you look different, people might think that's cool, right?
Well, I guess maybe my thought is you have a person who's capable of putting out the world's greatest music, but they kind of suck at TikTok. And so we're not going to ever get it.
I disagree. See, I disagree. Like, okay, like I have this horrible habit of reading every famous classic rock autobiography, right?
Yeah.
So if you read Springsteen's autobiography, not the biographies, but his autobiography, he's a shy, nerdy kid who looked like hell, right? Who was a wasto, right? And all he wanted to do was make it big.
Yeah.
Fired his best friends out of the band, right?
Yep.
You know, spent 2 years making Born to Run, right? And he changed his image. If you go look at, you know, Dancing in the Dark, the guy looks like a rock star all of a sudden. He's got his hair all pomaded up and everything. That was not his, you look at him interviewed now, that's not who he is. He's a shy, kind of wry, humorer guy. He's not like a, you know, I mean, Neil Young, okay, people who are total iconoclasts, and they still we're willing
Well,
to go for it.
I think it's an awesome point because actually now, as you say that, I think of maybe one of the biggest internet personalities that exists right now is Mr. Beast.
Oh yeah, Mr. Beast is such a
Mr.
nerd,
Beast
right?
is just a dorky kid that
So I know.
there's nothing natural about him and the internet.
Well, he's
And
audacious. That's the one thing.
He's audacious.
Yeah,
he just wanted, he had a goal. And he's like, well, we'll just figure out whatever it takes to.
Right.
It's a good point. Yeah. So I guess, so you're an artist and you just, I suppose it's no different than what it's always been. You have to be prepared to have multiple income streams until you don't need them.
Or yeah, but I would put it in yes, I agree, but I would say conceptually the more important thing is you have to be an artist who embraces the parts of the business they can control. And what's interesting is that there are more parts you can control now than before. Never mind the Live Nation AEG, Live Nation Ticketmaster issue, right?
Yeah.
You can control merch, you can control promo, you can control how people see you, your image, because you can control social media, have your own, you can interact with your fans better than before. So you have more levers than you used to. And that's why, everything you can do, like the stuff we're doing with our software to get you more independent is the right thing to do anyway, right? You'd be foolish not to do it unless you get really, really big, which great, then you're big.
Yeah. I mean, the brand deal thing, like Madison Watkins is an artist that's from here. She's now in LA, but she made a song called Curls. She kind of sounds like Whitney Houston, honestly. She's insane.
That's amazing.
Madison Watkins. She's nuts.
Watkins? Okay, I'm going to check her out.
Yeah, so she's got a song called Curls, and she made it trying to get a hair brand deal.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
she released the song, and I don't want to mess up the story because it's been several years since she told me the story, but I think she got like a $50,000 deal with Aussie Hair for that one song, just to feature the product and the song in a certain number of videos.
Wow.
And so for an artist that's got two roommates in Nashville that's trying to cobble some things together until they can blow up, if you can do a few $50,000 deals,
Big hair.
not bad.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean,
And it's always been that way. It's been, you have to have multiple, you have to write, you have to teach some lessons, you have to record, you have to walk some dogs. That's what all the actors are doing in LA. If they're not at a certain level, they're doing odd jobs.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Well, I think we figured it out.
Well, it's at least a cookbook. If the recipe is try to do as much stuff independent as you can.
Yeah. Is there going to be a little guy though? Because there's, like Kodak, I think, what did they sleep on? I'm trying to think of all the big examples. You've got
Kodak introduced a digital
Blockbuster.
camera, but they kind of didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
They were the first guys to do digital.
Blockbuster slept on Redbox.
Oh yeah.
And Netflix. And there's always a big player that sleeps on something else. Is there something that's out there that's interesting, or that's just because it's so real estate driven, it's just...
Well, I mean, look, if you really want to be a futurist, you could say that when VR hits, it will destroy the concert business, right? Who wants to go to a venue when you can just do it in your living room, right? I mean, it's true of everything else. People don't go to movie theaters.
Yeah, I guess if it gets real enough. Because to your point about the streaming thing, there were a lot of companies that popped up that were doing live concerts during COVID.
I remember.
And they just kind of suck.
Yeah, I know.
Do you remember? I think I talked to you about this when Garth and Trisha did the one in the basement.
Yeah.
And Garth Brooks is an icon. I would never say a bad thing about him.
No.
I watched it, and it just was kind of like,
Well, there was no audience, right?
yeah. So maybe the audience helps. But even then, there's something about the human energy
Exactly.
of just being there.
Yeah, I just
100%.
sometimes I find that the most ludicrous predictions I make actually come true. So that's why I make the one about VR replacing concerts. It's not that I think it will, but it could.
Well, it's getting better.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Think 10 years from now, not 1 year from now.
Well, there's a lot of people now that use VR where they lean on things on accident and fall over.
Yeah.
That didn't used to happen in the last iterations of VR. So now that
wasn't good
they let you see your hands and stuff, it's getting a little better. And so they're starting to lean on like tables and different things and fall over because they forget for a second that they're in VR.
Right.
Well, that's why mixed reality is the actual solution. But I'm just saying in general, when something seems like it's not going to change, it usually does change. Right?
Yeah, really quickly. And then we'll all wind up in the movie WALL-E.
Yeah.
And none of this will matter. Nobody will be touring anywhere.
Yes, movie.
No, but think about like, there's your cost side control.
Exactly.
Oh, guess what? Our tour is in this studio.
That's right. That's right.
Done.
Yeah, that's right.
Cost side control. Wow. Yeah, it's a wild world out there. And these are just two of
It's hard to get by just upon a smile.
Stay safe out there, kids. Stay safe.
Yes, totally. Stay safe and don't be above TikTok. Or anything else that comes up that enables you to have control. Right. Anything that enables you to have a little bit of control, just go do it.
Absolutely.
Control your domain.
There's a lot of artists that have come out of TikTok. I mean, TikTok's kind of, yeah.
And if it's not for you, there's maybe something else, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's a stepping stone. If you really want it, you got to do everything you can.
Cool.
All right. Deep thoughts.
There it is. Deep Thoughts.
Deep Thoughts. With
Mike,
Wendy, and Drew.
MWD. All right.